Akuma vs Garou is the matchup I have always wanted to do ever since I made the Yujiro video. Got suggested by multiple people, obviously for sharing so many similarities, as both are martial artists who chose the evil path in order to chase down their goals, and they even have a similar hair color switch from red to white and vice versa. But nonetheless, we'd be analyzing both of these characters' transformations, how physically strong both are, and how their abilities and techniques would interact with each other to find out who is the better martial artist between the two. But before that, do not forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell for more of these One Punch Man matchup videos. Thank you. Akuma is one of the most iconic fighting game's characters, made his first appearance in Street Fighter 2 where he one-shotted M. Bison with relative ease, became a beloved character due to his mentality of always wanting to fight the strong, displayed his clear supremacy over 99% of the characters in the series. However, before discussing his overall stats and abilities, it's very important to understand the general lore of the Street Fighter's franchise. Strictly speaking, even within its community, it's very hard to pinpoint which events exactly can be considered as filler or canon, since details about each character's stories always gets retconned or changed to the point that we as fans lost track to what's real and what's not. Reasons this is important because even with the anime movies in mind, there still are multiple cinematic endings paired with multiple crossovers such as the final fight in the Canon Spike series. So at the end of the day, the short answer that would conclude all of this would be that nothing is canon and everything is canon. Hence, power scaling wise, as long as events are tied together, somehow it can still be used. You see, understanding how strong Akuma is needs to be tied to properly gauging how strong others should be. Yes, people eventually always brings up the Akuma shattering an island with their punch feats, but Street Fighter's lore envelops much more than that. For instance, Kami White, if awakened in Street Fighter Alpha 2, was stated by Bison to have power that can destroy an entire country alone. This is substantiated by Base Vega surviving nuclear explosions that destroyed the Shadowloo headquarters in 2 different occasions, exerting around 50 teratons of TNT, putting him around country level in terms of attack potency and durability. And since Akuma displayed relativity to Ryu, who defeated Bison, he should certainly be above that level. This can be backed up by him casually destroying an island with a single punch after a long exhausting fight with Ryu, and Street Fighter 4's ending where he destroyed a whole forest by merely charging up. But you see, putting him at country level in terms of attack potency would still be his level of strength without accounting for his next 2 forms. Now let's start with Shin Akuma, which is a state he attained by almost becoming one with the Satsui no Hado. You can say that the Satsui no Hado is something equivalent to becoming a monster in One Punch Man. With this, his best feat so far is jumping so high in the sky to destroy a meteor in the Capcom Fighting Evolution game. The official Capcom Europe channel included this feat in their description of their top 5 most powerful Street Fighter characters, which adds to its credibility to being canon. But nonetheless, Akuma had to have exerted 4 petatons of TNT, putting him at continental level plus in terms of attack potency, and the speed required to accomplish this feat had to be around massively hypersonic plus to sub-relativistic levels. Oni Akuma, on the other hand, is confirmed by the developers of Capcom to being an Akuma beyond Shin Akuma, but sadly we don't have any concrete feats that upscales him to his previous form other than including the Asura Rat scaling. Well, for obvious reasons, this is a crossover that should not be canon, but for the sake of this video, to have 2 final characters that can fight in space would generously be including this in this matchup. You see, Akuma here, not only was he amped considerably, but was able to fight toe-to-toe against base Asura, and then after contended with him even in his mantra state. This form of Asura scales around large planetary to dwarf star level in terms of attack potency and faster than light in terms of speed. And since Oni Akuma was implied to being his equal at the end of the fight, he should scale relatively to this level. Now, in regards of his overall abilities, I wanna first clear a big misconception regarding the Shun Gokusatsu, or the Raging Demon. This has been displayed by many power scalers to be an attack that can majorly attack your soul, and the only instance where this was mentioned was in Street Fighter Alpha 3 Akuma's ending. However, this was debunked by the community to be a clear mistranslation that never said anything about hitting the soul in the original. Instead, it has only been described as a hack that uses the weights of one's past sins to end their lives. The more evil an individual is, the more pain he would suffer. That's why Akuma in his first appearance easily killed Bison, but struggled heavily with Ryu, who is relative to the latter. But make no mistake, it is still a very strong ability that can still inflict physical damage by launching a series of deadly strikes in a moment. The more evil a person would be, the more effective it would be. Akuma can also use dark energy projection, teleportation, fire and electricity manipulation, and much more. Pair all of this with his high proficiency in hand-to-hand combat and mastery over the art of assassination. All of this allowed Akuma to always be a contender to the strongest in the series. But nonetheless, how would he fare up against the hero hunter Garou? Garou is a character I've talked about many times in my channel. Became a series at this point where I match him up against every martial artist in fiction. But as always, I'll make sure to give a brief summary of who he is and what he can do. Garou is generally a genius martial artist who was trained by Silver Fang to master a very complicated style called the Water Streamlock Smashing Fist, considered to be the king of mimicry and adaptability, where he can copy any fighting style in a single glance. Slowly and steadily climbed the ladder to eventually become the strongest monster there is. But how strong is Garou? The versions of Garou we'd be using are Half Monster Garou, his awakened monster state, and after that we'd marginally be scaling his god-given form. Half Monster Garou is the one who tanked hits from Rover, fought Orochi, one-shotted Puri Puri, and eventually fought against Darkshine. So generally speaking, this Garou should already have solidified himself as a dragon level threat. Reasons this is important is because being a dragon in most parts, not all the time, qualifies you to become a cadre. And according to Super Mouse, the hierarchy tier, which is the cadre, is based on destructiveness, which means that overgrown Rover should be more destructive than Evil Eye, who can generate small hurricanes. This feat was capped to being at least large mountain level in terms of destructiveness. And to make a long story short, Half Monster Garou was tanking hits from a cadre who is certainly above Evil Eye. But nonetheless, Garou continues to adapt and evolve, gaining more speed and raw power to eventually fight Darkshine. For reference, Darkshine is a character who is certainly above Carnage Kabuto in terms of physical strength. The same monster who scales above Vaccine Man, who in his base has a City plus level attack. And according to the data book, Vaccine Man's transformation drastically increases his fighting strength, meaning if we assume it would only be a 2x multiplier, then transformed Vaccine Man should be put at mountain level in terms of attack potency. And since Carnage Kabuto is described in the data book to possess strength incomparably higher than other monsters so far, then that ultimately means that Darkshine, same as Garou who surpassed him during the fight, should possess by the very least island level of AP. Speed on the other hand is much easier to quantify. There are multiple calcs that puts way inferior characters to being massively hypersonic to massively hypersonic plus. I might also add that way early on, Janos dodged multiple lasers that contains the property of light, and Awakened Cockroach claimed he can react at the speed of light. The Monster King Orochi legit caught Awakened Cockroach quite easily, even though he was missing his feet. In contrast to Garou, who dodged multiple of his horns and was getting much faster during the fight. Now moving on to Monster Form Garou, who in speed even shatters the likes of Platinum S and Flashy Flash. Flashy Flash is a character who was stated multiple times to being as fast or even faster than light by a great margin. And not only did Garou surpass them in no time, but got 3 more additional forms right after, completely solidifies him to being faster than light plus. However, tackling his attack potency is a much difficult task. Narratively speaking, based on the last panel of chapter 115, God should have seen how Saitama stopped Orochi's Gaia cannon with his serious squirt gun, but still sent Sage Centipede to deal with Saitama despite knowing how strong he is at that time. Although I'll admittedly say there are many factors that could change this interpretation for sure, but for now, this places Perfected Fist Garou above Sage Centipede, who narratively should scale above Orochi's Gaia Cannon that was calculated to be small planet level of destructive capacity. Gargoyle Garou with Fajin was implied to being much stronger than that, and by the very least should make him range from small planet to small planet plus. Cosmic Fear Garou's strength and speed on the other hand should be self-explanatory at this point of time, as not only he was matching Saitama's incredible speed and pace, but also managed to exert the same level of energy that resulted in wiping out multiple stars and possibly galaxies, making him by the very least multi-solar system level. Now it's also important to note that Garou's true strength lies on his complete mastery over martial arts. This is paired with the ability to copy, adapt and grow even stronger during the fight. The more he fights, the more his chances of victory increases. He also has multiple other techniques that should be highly effective against humanoid opponents, such as Fajin that can bypass their ability, hitting organs from the inside, and his ability to reflect attacks and return them with double the force. However, how would the strongest monster pair up against the strongest demon? Now, given the nature of these two combatants and how gravely they resemble each other, I would say that a fight between them would be very close. Both has very pressing and dangerous abilities such as the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist and the Raging Demon. However, let's first see how they stack up against each other in terms of physical stats. You see, Half Monster Garou, who scales at Island level at best in terms of attack potency, cannot contend with base Akuma that scales higher than both Kami and Bison. Simply put, multiple country level strikes would be able to cripple Garou and possibly even end his life. Adapting and evolving or using, let's say, the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist on the other hand would require an at least comparable level of strength, as he almost died from an attack that he couldn't deflect from Super Alloy Darkshine. However, the problem Akuma would have is the vast difference in speed, which means that Garou's best case scenario is to land attacks without getting hit. But Akuma, same as other fighters such as Ryu, Ken and Alex, has been implied to have a high level of precognition to the point of constantly fighting against it. These informations functions to convey that Akuma to some degree would be able to predict and react to Garou's attacks, with the Raging Demon being the most pressing ability that Garou has to deal with. Now remember that this attack described by Akuma himself to being hits that are not even produced by his fist. The more evil a character is, the more he will suffer against it. Although fairly speaking, there were characters who managed to survive this attack, but it's always due to possessing an equally incredible hacks, such as Gen achieving a state of Mu, which is literally nothingness, Gil surviving because of his resurrection ability, and Goken due to sharing the same Satsui no Hado's energy, meaning Garou, who is trying to become the symbol of fear, would be very susceptible to this kind of attack. But we shouldn't be excluding the notion of Garou being able to evade most of Akuma's attacks, possibly deflecting his ki blasts and landing more hits that would hurt him eventually. That's why I said, even with the clear supremacy of Akuma's attack potency, this could still be very close. Now, Monster Form Garou should turn the tides upside down, as he's not only superior in every stat against base Goki, but also Shin Akuma. Even though the Raging Demon would be much more effective against this version of Garou, as now he's more evil and stacked himself into attaining more sins, he still wouldn't be able to catch him due to the vast difference in combat, travel, and reaction speed, forcing Akuma to eventually become one with the Satsui no Hado, transforming himself into his Oni state, attaining powers that rivals even Mancha Asura himself. Logically speaking, Akuma should contend with Garou's final monster form in speed, as now he can connect with Garou using his Raging Demon. He also vastly outscales him in terms of attack potency, but landing on Garou would still be a very difficult task, since Garou himself was still redirecting hits from Saitama, granted he was always obviously holding back. So technically, you can say that he may be able to do the same thing to Oni Akuma. He can also always use his Fajin mode that can bypass durability. However, at the end of the day, Oni Akuma should have the upper hand, but still would be very close combos depending on which attack would be landing first. Reaching the last part of this video, which is Cosmic Field Garou dismantling Oni Akuma easily in every regard. Much superior in speed, strength, and even abilities. And even if you want to argue that using the Raging Demon would effectively take down Cosmic Field Garou, which is crazy to say, then all Garou needs to do is copy his technique to cancel him out, same as he did with Saitama himself. Thank you so much for watching this video. Until next time, please take good care. This form of Asura scales around large planetary to dwarf star level in terms of attack potency and faster than life in terms of... Faster than life, bro. Faster than life. Okay.